When you scale beyond one location, the things that used to be manageable in your head suddenly need systems, dashboards, and clean data behind them. Without that foundation, growth slows down, problems hide longer, and decisions start getting made on instinct rather than insight. Welcome back to the Insurance Untangled Podcast, where we help dentists turn insurance struggles into growth opportunities by breaking free from PPO limits. I'm your host, Don Adeesha, and it's great to have you here. Today, we are stepping into the world of dental groups, where operations, accountability, and decision making look very different from a single practice setup. And joining us is Vincent Cardillo. Vincent is a renowned dental industry leader with over 25 years of experience in executive and partnership roles, specifically focused on scaling dental service organizations, our lovely DSOs. Um, he is the founder of Maeva Dental Advisors, which provides outsourced C-suite services to dental groups. Throughout his career, he has proven track record of rapidly growing dental enterprises, including one group that ranked number 14 on the Inc. 500 list in 2014 with 12,896% of growth. Uh, Now, this episode is sponsored by Echo Marketing, the growth partner behind this podcast, and the team helping dental practice owners grow without grinding themselves down. With that being said, Vincent, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Don. How are you? Thank you very much for having me today. Greatly appreciated and excited to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about what it actually takes to run a dental group well and why the numbers matter more than ever. So, Vincent, running operations for a dental group is completely different than running a single practice. What changes the most when a practice grows into a group, and where do most owners really struggle?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, Don. A dental practice is a business at the end of the day. And, as you grow from one location to two locations, three locations, um, what what we see with our experience with, we've worked with over 50 different emerging group practices. The things that we see doctors struggling with, number one is the org chart, right? Like who reports to who. We, as part of our onboarding process, we're like, okay, doc and team, why don't you guys put together, an organizational chart? And, we'll come back and take a look at it. And, there's lines all over the place. And which is good, right? It's at least they're acknowledging it. But, in an organization, there has to be clear lines to who is whose boss, really. So one is org chart. That's a very important thing to have. Second
Mhm.
is accountability, right? What happens is because the org chart is not streamlined where everyone reports to one person, the accountability gets blurred and there's a lot of, well, Dr. Smith said this is okay, and then Mary said that's not okay, and Joe said it's okay, and then confusion happens and there's no accountability and you move on. The
Mhm.
the the next area I would say is around standard operating procedures um, in writing, right? So, a practice, a good practice, everyone does what they do well. Um,
Mhm.
However, when you get to the next practice, the second location, the third location, you have to transfer this knowledge base over to the next location. So it's important to get as much and as many of those procedures that you do at the front desk, in the back, wherever it is, in writing, which then
Mhm.
leads to our next area of concern is training. So once you have SOPs, that becomes a great tool and guide or beginning starting grounds to be able to put together a training manual and train people, right? So training
Mhm.
becomes very important, right? You just can't throw people in a location and think they're going to do exactly what was done in location number one that was successful. Um, and lastly, I would say knowing their numbers, right? And their metrics, right? Just even their profit and loss statement to understand exactly where they lie, and just understanding what a P&L is. So we
Mhm.
found that as a pretty big gap also.
Okay. Now, how do you coach an owner to really let go of the "I'll just do it myself" mentality during the first stage of scaling?
Ooh, that's a good question, right? Um, what so so what you have to do is what we do is we move that accountability
Hmm.
on areas. So we like the doctors to be involved in the clinical aspect, right? And try and help them understand that the business piece should be done with, managers or whoever you have appropriate that are non-clinicians. And, as part of what we do, it's, there are weekly calls that go on and accountabilities, and we slowly move an accountability that the doctor typically does. We'll pick one and have
Hmm.
that manager do it and, make the doctor feel safe, and have that manager go do a little piece, come back the following week, and then they do it well or they make a mistake, and our team coaches them with the doctor. And next thing you know, a little at a time, as the doctor sees that this person can actually do it, they actually get excited about it. They didn't think it could happen, or they just weren't able to let go. And then we have to continue to work with them and say, look, it's okay. It's a small mistake. This is how we got to, build this person.
Right. Small step by step weekly meeting here and there. I really appreciate you really breaking down those few things that really a lot of the owners struggle with when it comes to scaling. But if you got your organizational chart, and of course accountability followed up by that, and SOPs, along with training on those SOPs, and of course knowing your metrics really helps uh, clarify if you are ready to scale or not. And that
Right.
that doesn't mean, it might not be a group scaling, but really scaling within your practice as well, if you're
Right.
ready or not for that. Now, Vincent, what are the most common operational breakdowns you see inside dental groups, and why do they tend to go unnoticed for so long?
Well, outside of the org chart, it's having the wrong people in the wrong position. So wrong
Mm,
people in the wrong seat. And, this is a common thing. Um, and it's a bit unfortunate because, um, what the doctors are doing and what we all want to do is we want to reward that person that's been with them for a long time and grow them through the system. But what happens at a certain point in many situations, um, that particular person, that let's say it was a dental assistant, and now they've grown to become a manager, and because of that, the practice can pay them more money, and then they go into a regional manager's role, let's say, or an operations person that oversees two offices, and again, that allows them to get more money, and gives that person the opportunity. And in many situations, more than you would think, there's two
mhm,
issues. One is that person doesn't have the skill set because the doctor hasn't had the ability to train them or send them to some type of a training program or be educated and pay for that
mm,
education for that role. And then secondly, what we find, which is real interesting, is that the person in that role likes the money, but really
yeah.
doesn't like the job. And they only do the job because they feel bad and want to make the doctor happy, right? So you've got a doctor trying to make the person happy, and you got the person trying to make the doctor happy. and they're kind of both not happy because the one person doesn't really want to be in the job, and the doctor's like, well, this person's not doing that great of a job, but I'm going to trust them. So so that's a big one that we see a lot, and it's unfortunate. But it's one. Um, Another one is, the commitment to growing people in training and development. Um, you know, the business of dentistry is a people business all around. We're dealing with patients and we have people dealing with the patients. And the only way and the best way that we can grow is by growing our team, right? So we have to grow our team and our people to grow our practice. And that requires training, investment, development. So there's quite a bit of gap there. And in that particular area, um, I we see that the doctors just don't know, right?
Mm,
They're open to do it for sure, but they're just really not aware of the importance and the value of that.
that's right. Okay, those were some really great points, that can show up as operational breakdowns. And it's really interesting because I feel like the first point you made, it has a lot of loyalty in there, right? The
Yeah,
doctor trusting the dental assistant, promoting them through the ranks, and then the dental assistant want to stick around. But of course, if you don't have the skill set required to stay in that position, you're not going to have a fun time. And
right.
you, of course, as the owner, you're not going to see a great return in either. So
Yep.
balancing that with growing people, as you mentioned, I'm curious to know is there ever a time where you would think, okay, I've given this person opportunity to grow, perhaps through some CE courses. Um, how but they're not growing. They're not growing beyond a certain position. During that time, what would you recommend the doctors or the practice owners to really do?
Yeah, so I think it's important to have the conversation with the person. I think the doctors automatically assume that the person wants this new role, but
Mm,
the doctors put them there because that's the only way we can give them more money, right?
that's right.
Um, but repeat that one more time. I was going down another path, but
Of
just
course.
repeat
No,
the
no, you were
question
going on
again.
the correct tangent, I think. Yeah, but I'll keep it tighter. So I was just wondering what if they're not growing beyond a certain role,
Yes, I
right?
got
If
it.
they're
Yep.
if they're fantastic dental assistants, but the moment you make them practice managers, they are starting to slip away. Maybe
Yeah, so
how,
so so two things. One is what we find is the doctors really don't know that that person is not equipped for that role because they truly don't understand what if they're performing well or not performing well,
Mhm.
right? So I think one area is just sitting down with the person and understanding, spend some time with them and ask them, what is it that you really love to do?
Mm.
Right? At the end of the day, if you get someone working in an aspect of the practice that they really love to do, they're going to perform.
Yeah.
And if that person wants to go back to being assistant, well, they could be an elite assistant. Or they might say, look, I just don't enjoy having to manage people, right? I've known these people for 12 years. Now they report to me. We've got this break in the relationship. And they get put in a bad situation. So I think it's spend a little time with these people that you feel are important to you, have been important
Mm.
to you, that you believe in you and will do whatever you say, even to their detriment, right? Just take some time to talk to them.
So then how would you recommend the owner increase the compensation if they're not promoting through roles?
That's a tough one, right? Because when you're looking at your numbers, and this is what happens a lot, and this is how the practices team compensation quickly, you know, surpasses the average of where it should be because you got people there for a long time and you keep giving them raises and keep giving them raises. They have to have another opportunity within the practice that can allow them to be paid more, but they have to have the skill set, and that skill set might require them to do some schooling, right? So maybe it's supporting them and teaching them, hey, look, we have this opportunity, but you're going to have to learn this. I'm willing to
Mm,
support you in paying you to learn that, or I'm hiring a consultant to teach you that, or going to a school for it. So
mm,
that's one way to upgrade them, right? But they have to be willing and they have to want to do it.
that's right.
If they don't want to do it and they just want to be a dental assistant in the chair, I mean, there's a cap to that number, and it's a little bit of a problem, right? So, you reach your cap, and then you get your annual increases, and then I guess you bonus them on performance. If they're that good of a performer, you put some type of performance mechanism within that role in the practice, and they get a bonus for it.
That's right. And of course, if some people are satisfied with that cap, well, then there's that, right?
And you know what? That's interesting, right? So doctors that are typically adding or want more offices are more entrepreneurial and more ambitious. And, I'm an entrepreneur too. And, we automatically think everyone's like us, right? And maybe they don't want to do that, right? But we want them to be that person. That's another thing, right? You got to listen to them, and it's not you making them what you want them to be because that ends. I've done it. Everyone's done it. And in the end, it doesn't turn out well for either party.
Okay. So really have that honest conversation up front, show them the roadmap to see if they're interested in the deal, and really see what they are looking for. And if
Right,
they're okay with the cap and you're okay with that, sounds like a good plan already.
right, right.
Right. Now, before we continue on, I have a quick message on behalf of our sponsor here. So much of practice growth comes from fixing the gaps that already exist inside the business. If you're listening and realizing there may be hidden opportunities inside your systems, operations, or patient flow, be sure to book an MSM session with Echo Marketing through our website, insuranceuntangledcom/MSM. I'll repeat that one more time, Insurance Untangled, that's one word, .com/MSM. It's designed to help practices uncover growth opportunities and strengthen performance. Now let's get back to our conversation. So, Vincent, there are dozens of KPIs a group could really track, but not all of them are equally useful. Which KPIs actually matter the most, and which ones distract leaders from the real story?
Yeah, this is a great question, right? And this is, for us, we've grown. We love metrics. We love KPIs. We look at hundreds of them. It actually brought us to a point to develop our own technology, which is called
Mhm,
Pronto, which is a practice performance platform, where we bring data in from the practice management system, the accounting system, the human resource system, the phone system, the reputation management system, all the technologies around the practice, because everything is important. Um, but from a high level, they're financial metrics,
mm,
operational metrics, clinical metrics, and culture metrics. We would
mm,
consider those as our four buckets of metrics. And within
mm,
those, there are many metrics. And if you monitor all those and you can identify ones that need help, it's amazing what one small little metric can have on a practice. So when I talk about those four particular buckets, financial would mean the profit and loss statement, the cash flow statement, which is, what is your lab expense? What are your supply expense? What should it be to a budget? Having a
Mm.
budget and building the budget and understand what's in that budget and what those expenses are that you said you would have. So those are financial ones.
Mm.
Um, Operational ones are more around, okay, your AR, your private AR, your insurance AR, what they should be at 30, at 60, at 90. Your missed calls, how many missed calls should you have or shouldn't you have?
Mm. That's
Um,
right.
the reviews, how many 5 stars reviews do you get? How many do you want to get a month? Number of new patients. Um, a real good one is what percent of new patient phone calls actually get booked, right?
That's
So
right.
that metric is very big. Just by managing missed calls and the percentage of new patient calls that get booked, we've found focusing on those two particular metrics in 3 months, you will increase your new patients by 20% without spending any more money, right?
Sure.
So that's operational. Clinical is more around the clinical aspects of it, like how many remakes are my doctors doing? What is the perio percent that we expect out of our hygiene department? If
Mm.
our state allows us to do laser treatment, what percentage of SRPs had lasered? Um, and this one seems weird, but when you have a lot of practices, you know,
Yeah.
what are the percent of new patients that either had a Panorex or an FMX? And unfortunately, it's never what you'd think it would be. You would think it's 95% because 5% of the patients bring their own x-rays in, or they say they don't want them. But
Right.
when you have a lot of practices, it's amazing how some offices are at like 60%. So they might be doing it, but maybe they're not charging it out. Either way, it's
Wow.
problematic, right?
Okay, that's a real number, right?
Yeah. And then fourth is the culture, right?
Okay.
Is what is going on with our people? Are we growing them? What is our turnover by location or at office? And then what's our turnover by position? Right? We manage a number of groups, and this office turnover is 35%, and they find out that 80% of the 35% is in dental assistants. Well, something's
Mm.
going on there,
Mm.
right? If you're
Mm.
not watching it, and what ends up coming out is, I don't know, they really don't like the doctor threw something at them. Something's going on in that practice. So those are the four buckets that we focus on. And like we said, we manage maybe 148 or so today. Every day it grows. And we have AI that goes through and says, okay, this practice, here are the top 20 areas to focus on, and they're random things, and those random things impact, right? If you reduce your employee turnover and get it in line, it's amazing how many more 5 stars review you got and how high your recall rate increases because people want to come back.
Hmm. I mean, that's a great breakdown, Vincent. And for our practice owners, listening in, tuned in, I'm just curious if they don't have the systems in place, if they don't have Pronto, what's the best way to go about, really tracking these buckets, financial, clinical, cultural, and of
Well, the
course.
easiest thing is to get Pronto, right? No, I mean, look, what we got driven to Pronto because we used to create these very intricate Google sheets
Hmm.
or Excel sheets, right? Whichever ones that we would have
Yeah.
the practices fill in. So you've got to track it. But then when you track it, you really have to look at it over time, right? So I mean, I guess what I would say is put them in Google Sheets, right? And you have to have a benchmark. The important thing is a benchmark. What we find out is people will go into one of these dashboard companies out there and look at the data, and there's so much data in there, but they don't know what's right, wrong, or indifferent. So you have to learn the benchmark. Like what should my perio percent be? You can
That's
track it
right.
all day long, but how do you know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent? So I think you got to learn what those benchmarks are and then track that data and then pick on a quarterly basis or monthly basis, one or two metrics, continue to track it and work with the team on it so they can see how it gets better. And what we find is if there's a metric that you have to work on or you're working on, um,
Mhm.
typically there's not a good standard operating procedure around there, or there's not one at all and there's no training around it. So what happens is to make it better, you have to do that. So now what you just did is you created an SOP in training for this particular metric, and now that metric increases. And when that happens, everyone on the team sees the importance of tracking, the importance of an SOP, and the importance of training.
Check. And you really do need that buy-in from the team.
Yeah, and they're not gonna, they're not gonna listen to you, and you got to show them it, right? And if you can get it to a point where they see it, they're gonna believe it.
Absolutely. And truly, that's 60% for the X-rays. If they're doing in-house and you're not charging for that, that's oof.
It's a
And
lot,
you wouldn't
right? And
have,
that's only one
I
of
wouldn't have,
148 metrics.
yeah, that's right. And that's a great benchmark. I mean, if that's happening, we got to be a bit careful out there, docs.
Right, right.
Uh, Now, Vincent, when dental groups truly embrace data, what changes and how does it transform decision making, accountability, and of course, long-term growth?
Yeah, so I mean, what we just talked about tails into this
That's
question,
right.
which is great, right?
Yeah.
Identifying these particular opportunities, number one, it creates alignment and focus, right? Don't A lot of doctors just hear one thing, they find one thing, this is the problem, they get everyone worked up about it, and then they don't talk about it anymore. And then a week later, they pull up another problem, and then the team's like, okay, here goes the doctor pulling up a problem. So you have to identify what that opportunity is. You have to commit to a timeline with the team and say, here's where
Mhm.
we are, this is where we're going to grow to, which creates alignment, right? And within that, we will see, what's missing, and we're going to learn through putting together SOPs. We're going to learn by putting together a training program, um, and we're going to see the results. And when we see the results, we're going to gain confidence. And when we start to gain confidence, especially the doctor that has one location and wants to grow, the biggest thing is for that person to feel confident about their numbers and what they're doing to go on to practice number two. And that's what this would do. This would provide the owner doctor confidence in their existing practice and grow the existing practice or add another location if they wanted to do that.
Check. That confidence is key.
Yep.
Um, Absolutely. Now, Vincent, as we are just closing out the episode here, what would your golden nugget be for our listeners? The key takeaway from our conversation.
I mean, I think it's a people business. Don't assume what your employees want, because sometimes the best employees, you put them in a bad situation. Communicate, communicate, have meetings, create alignment, um, and build the strong team and build people. When you do that, the rest will come.
Check. And
And
also,
obviously, you need metrics, right? I mean, that goes without being said.
yeah, I was just gonna say, get Pronto.
Yeah.
Right. So dental groups don't grow by accidents. They grow through structure, visibility, and the right metrics guiding the right decisions. The groups that scale successfully are the ones that treat data as a leadership tool, not just a report. When operations, KPIs, and information work together, growth becomes predictable instead of stressful. So, Vincent, for the people listening in, if they want to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can go to the website, www.prontodental.com, or they can give me a call, 413 433-2550. Happy to chat with them and happy to help anyone.
Amazing. So if today's conversation resonated with you, visit insuranceuntangledcom/resources and download the episode guide for this session. And if you're ready to build a stronger, more profitable practice, book an MSM session with Echo Marketing using insuranceuntangledcom/MSM. I'll repeat that one more time, insuranceuntangledcom/MSM. Don't just listen to the episode. Do take action. Any action would be great action. That because that's really where real value begins. I'm Don Adeesha, and on behalf of Insurance Untangled, we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.